Zanzibar. The name alone sounds exotic-like, something out of an adventure novel. For centuries, this island off the coast of East Africa was a crossroads of trade, culture, and power. Arab traders, Persian merchants, Indian settlers, and African Swahili people all converged here, creating one of the most unique cultural blends in the world. Today, we are re-exploring the spice markets that made this island famous and discovering why Swahili culture is one of Africa's most fascinating stories. Our day begins in Stone Town, the historic heart of Zanzibar City and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The architecture is striking. Massive wooden doors, some over 200 years old, covered in intricate carvings. Narrow alleyways designed to provide shade and confuse invaders. Crumbling coral stone buildings with balconies jutting out over the streets. This isn't just charming, it's living history. Stone Town was built between the 18th and 19th centuries when Zanzibar was the capital of the Omani Empire's East African territories. Arab sultans ruled from here, controlling the spice trade and, unfortunately, the slave trade that devastated the region. The old slave market, now the site of an Anglican cathedral, stands as a haunting reminder. Underground chambers show where enslaved people were held before being sold. It's heavy, it's uncomfortable, but it's essential to understanding Zanzibar's history. Today, Stone Town is a bustling mix of locals, tourists, and vendors, selling everything from fresh seafood to handmade crafts. The smell hits you immediately. Spices, sea salt, grilled fish, and incense all mixing in the humid air. And speaking of spices, that's where we're headed next. Zanzibar's nickname is Spice Island, and for good reason. For centuries, this island was one of the world's primary sources of cloves, nutmeg, cinnamon, and black pepper. At its peak in the 1800s, Zanzibar was the world's largest producer of cloves as spice, so valuable it was literally worth more than gold by weight in some markets. Arab and Persian traders brought the spice plants here. But it was enslaved Africans who planted, harvested, and processed them under brutal conditions. The wealth built on spices came at an unimaginable human cost. Today, the spice trade continues on a much smaller scale as a point of cultural pride and a major tourist attraction. We're at Dariani Market, Stone Town's main marketplace. It's chaotic, colorful, and absolutely sensory overload. Vendors call out prices in Swahili. Women balance baskets of mangoes on their heads. The air is thick with cardamom and turmeric. At one stall, a vendor shows fresh cloves still on the branch, small, rust-colored buds. She crushes one between her fingers and the scent is overwhelming. Sharp, sweet, almost medicinal. Another vendor offers cinnamon bark. Zanzibar cinnamon is considered some of the finest in the world because of the island's unique soil and climate. There's nutmeg, turmeric, root bright orange, and staining everything vanilla, black pepper, and ginger. Here's what's interesting. Most of these spices aren't native to Africa. They were brought here from Asia, the Middle East, and beyond. Zanzibar became a melting pot not just of people, but of plants and agricultural knowledge. This mixing of cultures through trade created Swahili culture, a blend of African, Arab, Persian, and Indian influences. If you want to understand a culture, eat its food. And Swahili cuisine is a masterclass in cultural fusion. We head to Forodney Gardens, a waterfront park that transforms into a massive street food market every evening. First up, Zanzibar pizza. This isn't Italian. It's thin dough stretched on a hot griddle filled with minced meat, onions, peppers, and cheese, then folded into a square and fried until crispy. It's messy, delicious, and uniquely Zanzibari. Next, we try Yorojo, also called Zanzibar mix. It's a soup made with coconut milk, tamarind, mango, cassava, and fried lentil fritters, topped with tangy sauce and fresh lime. The flavors are complex, sweet, sour, spicy, creamy, all at once. It perfectly represents Swahili cooking layers of influence, creating something entirely new. Then there's pilaf, a spiced rice dish cooked with meat, cloves, cinnamon, and cardamom. It's similar to Indian biryani, but with its own distinct Zanzibari twist. Every dish tells a story. The coconut milk comes from local palm trees. The spices come from the island's plantations. The cooking techniques reflect Indian, Arab, and African traditions blending over centuries. Food here isn't just sustenance, it's history you can taste. Swahili culture is defined by connection and exchange. The Swahili language itself is a perfect example. It's a Bantu language with roots in East and Central African languages, but filled with borrowed words from Arabic, Persian, Portuguese, English, and Hindi. The word Swahili comes from the Arabic Sawahil, meaning coasts. Swahili people have always been coastal traders, connecting the African interior with the wider Indian Ocean world. When Arab traders arrived on the East African coast over 1,000 years ago, they didn't replace the local culture, they merged with it. Africans and Arabs intermarried. Languages blended, religions mixed. The result is a culture that's distinctly African but also cosmopolitan and outward-looking. You see this everywhere. African coral stone buildings feature Arab-style carved doors and Indian-inspired balconies. Women wear colorful kanga wraps on African tradition, often paired with hijabs on Islamic practice. In Stone Town, the old fort, built by the Omanis in the 1700s, now hosts traditional Tarabi music performances. Tarabi is Swahili music at its finest, a blend of African rhythms, Arabic melodies, and Indian instrumentation. It sounds like the island itself, layered, complex, beautiful. Everything here is a remix. That's not dilution, it's richness. We can't talk about Zanzibar without addressing its darkest chapter, the slave trade. From the 1700s to the late 1800s, Zanzibar was the largest slave trading port in East Africa. Enslaved people from modern-day Tanzania, Malawi, Mozambique, and beyond were brought to Zanzibar, sold in markets, and shipped across the Indian Ocean to the Middle East and Asia. At its peak, over 50,000 enslaved people passed through Zanzibar each year. The conditions were horrific. People were chained together in cramped underground chambers, given minimal food and water, and subjected to brutal treatment before being sold. At the old slave market site, there's a memorial showing the actual underground holding cells. They're tiny, barely tall enough to stand in. Dozens of people were crammed into these spaces for days or weeks. The slave trade was officially abolished in Zanzibar in 1873. The Anglican cathedral was built on the site as a symbol of freedom, but the legacy remains. Many Zanzibaris today are descendants of enslaved people. The wealth that built Stone Town's grand buildings came from slavery. Modern Zanzibar is still grappling with this history, acknowledging it, teaching it, and ensuring it's never forgotten. Today, Zanzibar is part of Tanzania, though it has significant autonomy. Tourism is the island's main industry now, with visitors coming for the beaches, diving, and cultural experiences. As the sun sets, we return to Faradani Gardens. The waterfront fills with locals and tourists. Vendors set up grills, frying fresh seafood, octopus, lobster, squid, red snapper, all caught that morning. The smell is incredible. The atmosphere is electric. Kids play football on the lawn. The call to prayer echoes from nearby mosques, their beautiful minarets reaching for the sky, creating a peaceful vibe all around. This is Zanzibar today, a place where history and modernity coexist, where the legacy of trade and conquest has created something beautiful and complex. It's not perfect. Poverty and inequality remain. But there's also resilience, pride, and incredible cultural richness. A day in Zanzibar isn't enough to fully understand this place, but it's enough to see why it matters. This island, these spice markets, these stone buildings, the Swahili culture represents centuries of connection, exchange, and survival. It's proof that cultures don't exist in isolation. They blend, adapt, and create something new. Zanzibar's story is Africa's story. Complex, layered, and far richer than most people realize. If you want more stories like this, hit subscribe. We're dropping new videos 3 times a week, so get ready for some fun. Next up, there's this incredible African city that colonizers just couldn't believe was built by Africans.